Bill Johnson with the Wildcats coach Joseph Smith, 63-0, the romp over Lewis and Clark this past weekend. What do you take away from such a lopsided game like that?
Well, when we execute to our ability, I think we're a good football team. So pleased with that very much. I thought the game went the way it probably should go in terms of the physical difference between the teams. But at the same time, we blocked well and executed well, and very, very happy with our defense. Anytime you get a shutout, I don't care who you're playing, it's very difficult to do, especially if you play 96 people that we were able to get in. So, all those guys came in, did their job, and did it well, and I was very pleased with that. Did we play perfect? No, but it was a good game.
It's interesting you mentioned about the shutout. The last time Linfield was able to pull out a shutout was exactly 2 years ago at Lewis and Clark, ironically, at Palatine Hill, 52-0.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. We've been able, it seems like over the last few years, to get a few of them, but they're hard to get, especially when you get into your third and fourth strings.
Let's talk a little bit about one of the statistics that I noticed after the ball game. The last two games now, and you and I talked about this a week or so ago, that you weren't where you wanted to be on third down conversion rate, only about 38%. Last two games against Whitworth and Lewis and Clark, 52% for the Wildcats.
Yeah, and I think, as I mentioned many times earlier, the first four games we played were against playoff caliber teams, and the last two weren't. So, typically the statistics and results will be dictated by who you're playing, and I think the better the defenses are, the lower your conversion rate's going to be. But, if we can stay out of the third and long situations, every offense does better in those circumstances, and we were able to do that better the last two games.
Kyle Wright and the punt run back 75 yards. It didn't look like he was going to go anywhere when that play initiated, but all of a sudden he gets to the sidelines, and then it was pretty much free sailing.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice play. The ball security issues early in the game were tough with the rain, and the grass was a little wet, and so we had some issues with holding on to the ball. So a little bit worried about that, watching the ball kind of bounce, the type of punts they were doing. But real happy how he stayed with that. I thought we got some really key blocks that sprung him down the sideline, and then once he got there, he did a great job taking it.
Second straight week, and this week it was rainy and very, very wet, but Mickey Inns again just throwing with a lot of authority and just right on target again.
Yeah, I thought he was really spot on again and really accurate. Is really even the balls he threw away were almost completed, out of bounds, and so I thought he had a tremendous game again. Really only one or two plays that I graded him down on, but I thought he had a great game and really showed why I think he's the best quarterback in the conference.
Lucas Jepson makes that one catch in the end zone, and I think that was a demonstration of the competitive spirit of the Wildcats. He literally tore that ball and took it right away from the defender. Yeah,
that was a great play. Lucas is a guy that has a great competitive streak in him, and he will go get the ball at times, and showed a little gear that he had and a little bit of a desire that a lot of receivers don't. He did just take it away.
Talk about the fact that so many players got into the game for the Wildcats. This has to be a real plus for this football program, because if you practice, you go through training camp, but you don't get a chance to play if you're in a lot of tight games, and say you're a freshman or a sophomore, you kind of feel like, am I really a member of this team? And now the last couple of games, an awful lot of the Wildcats have had a chance to play and get a taste of what it's like to have some real competition on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Getting out to play is the reward for all the work the guys are doing. And we talked after the Whitworth game that we didn't quite get as many people in as we wanted. And I told the guys, if you just practice a little harder and play better, we'll get you in sooner. And so, everybody's involved in that. The scout teams, get in games if they give a really great look during the week, because the older guys play better and they're sharper, and the games get lopsided quicker, so there's more time to get in. So, everybody's invested to try to get those games, put away as early as we can and get the young guys in. That was the goal of this game. We wanted to play one good half with our starters and put it away, and then get our young guys in, and we were able to do that.
Well, let's talk about Willamette coming up this week. There's always a great rivalry, the Wildcats and the Bearcats. Fortunately, the game is going to be at the Cat Dome, a 3-game win streak against Willamette University. This game could end up being amounting to the title game for the Northwest Conference Championship this year. But the question that quickly comes to my mind, in all your years of coaching here at Linfield, have you ever seen a team change so much on the offensive side of the ball in 1 year and at the same time be so successful?
You know, the team that comes to mind, quite frankly, is my senior year here at Linfield, when we went from a whole different offensive style to a full house option attack, you know, with an option quarterback, and had the success that we did that year. But it is rare. I completely agree with you. It's just interesting to see them have so much success, and I think it's relative to the coaches they brought in. They brought in a new offensive coordinator. He's good, does a great job, attacking what defenses give him, and runs a very nice systematic approach. And Coach Fowles does a great job with the O-line, so they're really good on offense. It's not a fluke. They're good. They got a big veteran senior team, 16, 17 seniors, something like that. So, you know, this is their year in terms of this is the best chance they have to be a playoff team in the foreseeable future. You know, they've got a very senior-laden team, so I think they're very talented. Expect a tremendous game.
When you take a look at their receiving core, unlike a lot of teams that the Wildcats have already faced this year, rather than just one or two key people, they have quite a few very good receivers that can be very dangerous and cause some problems for anybody's defense.
Yeah, as I mentioned, you know, they're a systematic approach, so that they've got receivers everywhere, much like ours, and they'll try to take what you give them, so they don't have to feature any one person. They have enough talent to run the routes and take, you know, what the defense allows them to complete. So I like the tight end. He's good. I think Connect is a very good outside receiver. The running backs are good, and Dean's having a great year at quarterback. So they're extremely good.
Just from a defensive standpoint, major concerns about this brand new attack that you're going to see Saturday from Willamette?
You know, I think our defense is built for speed, and we've kind of tailored our defense to be good against teams like this. So, you know, we like this matchup. We're excited about it. We can't say how excited we are to be done with that fly business and to get that silly offense out of our conference. We're loving it. So take this any day over that. So this is a fun matchup. It's a playoff caliber type game, and you know, our guys come here to play in games like this. We're used to it. Feels comfortable. Our guys are excited.
Joseph, a couple comments about their defense. They lose their first game of the year this last weekend up at Pacific Lutheran, and they end up giving up 41 points, a season high for them.
Well, you know, the game was in the rain, crazy conditions. Watching that, it was a monsoon type game at times in terms of conditions. So anything happens in those. And they had a couple turnovers that led to some points, and you know, so they're a very good defense, and they're not getting 41 points as an anomaly against that quality of team. They've got great speed in the back end, and I think their safeties and corners are very good. I think their linebackers are good. The D-line's good. So they don't have any weaknesses on defense. They're very well coached. They're solid. They're sound, and they're good. So you're going to have to earn everything against them.
Wildcats head coach Joseph Smith. Thanks, Joe. Kelly stops that thing, so we'll just let it roll.
Okay. What struck me was, I mean, you guys have been playing Lewis and Clark for a really, really long time, and that's the biggest margin of victory. For you, after you broke down the game, what pointed to why you guys were so successful on both sides of the ball?
Well, I think in many ways we were just bigger, stronger, faster everywhere. Yeah. So that's probably the reason that you see a lopsided score in that fashion, especially get to 42-0 at half. That's generally everything's a mismatch, and that was the case. You know, their whole offense was Keith Welch, and you know, our defense took him away and hit him enough to where he went out of the game. So you know, that was very unfortunate for them. Once they lost him, they really had nothing.
I was up on top with the radio, and from up there, which was nice, you're kind of over the field, so you hear everything, really. And it just struck me the difference in attitudes. Lewis and Clark started the game pretty pumped up and hyped up, but after a while, you guys just wore on them, and your guys were hollering and just playing with a different sort of level. I mean, is that what you really try to bring, especially on the road? You know, bring that sort of attitude?
Well, I think, the last couple years we've played Lewis and Clark, the guys have come out and tried to stare our guys down, do some silly intimidation type tactics. And you got to remember, our team has played the Whitewaters and the Mary Hardin Baylors, and we've seen the best in the country, and we've faced that and competed against that. So, our guys aren't going to be intimidated by any of that business, and they're going to play at a different level because they are at a different level. So, absolutely, our guys expect to win every game they play, and they know they've outworked most teams, or at least, come even with them in the work ethic and the preparation, and then it's just a matter of playing. So, absolutely, it's a different mentality.
For you guys, again, pretty dominant in the rushing defense, held them under 100 yards rushing. Second straight week, it struck me that you guys, just stopping things right at the line of scrimmage. And like you said, Keith Welch was pretty much their offense. But are you happy with some of the injuries you guys have had, how you are playing on defense, especially?
Yeah, very much so. I think our defensive tackles in particular have, our two starting defensive tackles at the beginning of the year are out. And so to have, to lose your two better defensive tackles, so to speak, on paper, and to have those guys come in and play at the level they're playing is commendable. Very pleased with that. And our secondary is playing better and better, as I mentioned. They're getting to be quite good.
Early, when it was pouring rain there in the first quarter, you guys had a couple fumbles. Last year when you played Willamette, it was a pretty wet game too, and the score kind of reflected that. Early forecast for Saturday is like 40% chance of rain, something like that. Do you have some concerns about if it is another wet day?
Yeah, I think you always do, and most turnovers are they're relative to each other in terms of mutually exclusive. Something leads to those, and the bouncing punt, was a little bit interesting. In the wet conditions, those are precarious catches. I was more concerned with our drops. We dropped some balls, that we don't normally drop, and the two sack fumbles, so to speak. The ball hit, and they put a helmet on the ball, and those are always a little bit precarious there. So. For the most part, pleased with our ball security, and I like very much that Willamette's a very similar offense now. You don't feel like going into that game that in the past they're a run-oriented team only, so they have an advantage in the rain. Now they want to throw the ball, and to me everything's equal there.
They did lose last week, but I think you already mentioned a little bit. Just their defense is solid. They're still a pretty dangerous team.
Oh yeah, They I believe, are a more talented team than Pacific Lutheran, but PLU at home with their little mojo going and the kettlebells going, they're good at their place. And in the rain, anything can happen, and that's a good matchup for PLU. They match up well against what Willamette likes to do. They create chaos, they create turnovers, and again, the turnovers are what won the game for them. So that's a good matchup for PLU. I think Willamette is very good.
Go ahead.
After the Whitworth game, you commented how you were a little disappointed that the reserves gave up some points in the fourth quarter to Whitworth. After Saturday's game, what's your feelings on how your reserve defenders played in the second?
Well, they listened to that, and we worked on that, and I think our coaches, we prepared a little bit better for that eventuality in terms of trying to get our backups some time and coaching them up a little bit more in practice for what if, because most of the time those guys are playing Lewis and Clark's defense, throughout the week. So then they have to turn around and play ours against plays they haven't even seen, So it is difficult for your third and fourth strings to come in and hold up a shutout. So very pleased with what they did. It was fun to see.
Considering the efficiency on offense throughout the day, the 3 lost fumbles of any real concern?
One of them is I didn't like what happened on one of the ones that we lost a guy on a running play and kind of got into the backfield and created a turnover off of that. The others I can live with; those happen. We're going to have some of that. pleased with our ball security by our running backs. They've been doing a great job of that. So we're going to give up some turnovers, but we still have to keep limiting them. I am always concerned by that.
After 6 games this year, is your team playing up to the level you thought they'd be at this point in the season?
We're getting closer and closer. If we can cut out the turnovers, as you mentioned, and the penalties, we had a season high penalties. They had 11, we had 12. That it must stop, and we're working at it. And some of that's attributed to so many kids. You get off on the procedures, but we have to clean up some things still. But we're getting closer and closer to I think our potential level.
Talking about Willamette's offense earlier, at least from a statistical standpoint, they matched the kind of offensive explosiveness that the 2004 Linfield championship team did. With that in mind, do you think this is the biggest challenge your defense has ever faced from a conference opponent during your tenure?
I think statistically speaking, it may be. I think they have a very prolific offense, and they can score the ball. They have a lot of speed at a lot of different positions. I don't think anywhere, shape, or form are they near our 04, 05 team, but yeah, they're very dangerous.
Quarterback Josh Dean, basically a fixture on their bench last season. Suddenly you get a couple coaching changes, a new offensive scheme, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. When you look at him on film, what impresses you the most about him?
Well, I like the way the ball comes out of his hand. He throws a nice football, throws it pretty easy, quick release, accurate, good decision maker. He's playing at a high level because he's been coached very well, and he's very good at running their offense.
With all the attention that their passing attack gets, being the number 1 in the country, kind of lost behind that is their running game, in particular their running back, Dylan Jones, who quietly is one of the best rushers in the conference. How hard is it to slow down a good running back like him when Willamette has such a prolific passing game?
Well, absolutely. When you're multi-dimensional, it's difficult to stop both dimensions. So you're probably going to give one more attention than the other typically, and if you're defending the pass well, then you're going to give up some run. If you're defending the run, you're going to probably give up some on the pass side. So it is difficult.
Again, Willamette's defense give up some yards, but they're one of the better turnover forcing units in the conference. However, against PLU's offense, they couldn't quite get it done, especially in that 10-minute fourth quarter touchdown drive. Did the Lutes expose something in Willamette's defense, or did they just execute their game plan perfectly?
I think they just executed what they do well, and that's what you need to do is stay true to who you are, execute what you do well, and hold on to the football, and avoid those negative lost downs.
Lewis and Clark's punting, was that out of respect for your guys' return game, or was it just how they do it?
It's just what they do.
Yeah.
Rugby style punt.
Yeah. It didn't really seem very effective.
No, it didn't.
Real quick on the penalties that you mentioned, how many of those were personal foul penalties? I can't seem to remember. I kind of lost track in the second half.
I think we only had one that
Okay.
was that they call it. Well, I take that back. We had a roughing the passer, and then we had a late hit.
You mentioned a couple weeks ago about wanting to overall get rid of those in a game like Willamette.
Those will decide the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's something we just can't do. So.
Real quick too about John Schaefer. 3 TDs, all in the first half. Were they all in the first half?
Yes.
Yeah. He's turning into just a scoring machine really in his few games. You mentioned last week just about how you like the way he runs, and with some now that he's getting more reps and he's become the primary back for you guys. Do you have any idea of what he can do the rest of the way here?
I think he's going to do what he's been doing. I think he's I'd rather have him than anybody else I've seen in our conference. He's good. So playing with a broken hand, he's borderline amazing that way. So he's really, really good.
Is he going to get that cast off soon?
There's a progression to it, but he'll have something for quite a while still. I don't know.
Those wet conditions, I mean, it was impressive. Not even fumbling with
Yeah,
one hand, not even be able to hold the ball.
yeah, he does a great job.
Does he have one broken bone, Joe, or does he? Is it,
I can't even remember, to be honest. I don't know. All I know he's got a cast. He'll come off one of these days.
The less he knows, the better.
Yeah,
as long as he doesn't fumble, he's holding.
yeah, he's neat.
He is.
Neat kid, that.